This is an emergency episode of the Music Morning Show in the afternoon. They are back, y'all. Court is back. I didn't think it was gonna happen. I was over there chilling, eating my lunch, watching TLA. And I saw that court went live. We had to jump in here. Judge Whitaker is back. She's ready to go. Oh, I didn't even get the comments up there. I'm gonna get the comments in here in a second. If y'all could do me a favor, make sure you like the video on your way in. Make sure you drop a comment in the chat so y'all can let me know that you hear me. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me and see me. And we're going to go ahead and get right into it. I'm not going to waste any time. Thank y'all to everybody who's in here as well. Let me skip ahead here. Shout out to everybody who's in the building. I cannot believe it. I had to go live because we're back. I guess I'm going to have to finish my lunch in a minute.
Good afternoon. Everybody can be...
Here we go.
Court come to order.
Good afternoon. Everybody can be seated. All right. First things first.
That chair is still squeaking.
Miss Sylvia and Mr. Byron, if you all could both please come up to the podium.
Uh-oh, hopefully they're not in trouble. Why'd she call them up there?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Mr. Byron has done a great job of covering this trial too. I wonder what happened. Man, I wanted to finish my lunch. Man, this is crazy. I cannot believe that they're back.
All right, so for both of you, I am sorry to have to say this, but I am going to be entering in order modifying each of your Rule 22s. It has come to my attention and I have confirmed that each of you has been recording in the courtroom while I have not been on the bench, and that is a clear violation of Rule 22.
Oh,
and so
no.
You may record today's proceedings, but after today, if you want to record, you're going to have to do it from the media room. You may be in here in the courtroom as a spectator without any recording equipment.
Dang.
Or you may be in the media room to record, but no more with your equipment in the courtroom because y'all have both recorded things that you're not supposed to be recording based on Rule 22. So I'll enter those orders today. Thank you.
Yep. Y'all better take your whooping and walk off because it could be a lot worse than that.
It's my understanding that we have a plea to be tender.
I mean, I don't think anybody's surprised about Sylvia, and that sucks. But I'm surprised that Mr. Byron, he's been covering this for a while. Dang, that's terrible.
For Mr. Nicholls, is that right? All right.
They got a whooping.
You may.
A good old-fashioned whooping. Dang, that's tough. Now, shout out to Mr. Byron. He tweeted out, WTF? That sucks. So it looks like Quay, our Cormary, Cormavius Nicholls, Mr. Nicholls is taking a plea. That's crazy. So it looks like Bruce Harvey is up there getting the plea deal in. Let me see if we can skip ahead. This is probably going to take a minute, y'all. I cannot believe it. Oh, I still got to share this live stream out too. And shout out to TLA. I know I was all over there watching TLA too. And then I saw that the trial went live. I was like, man, TLA, hey, I got to get out of here. I gotta go live stream real quick. So salute and shout out to TLA. It was over there showing so much love and so much support for the channel. If y'all weren't able to check out the lead attorney, go make sure you subscribe, show him some love. And Amy, if I know you're in here, if you could, can you drop the link to his channel too? He's over there live streaming right now as well. Wow. And man, I can't believe Sylvia and Byron got booted like that. Dang. That's tough. All right, Law and Crime is their camera's having an episode there. Also, I wanted to mention this to y'all too. There was a tweet that went out probably about maybe 30 minutes or so ago. And it was from Doug Weinstein. And what did Doug Weinstein say? I'm going to put this on the screen for y'all. Doug Weinstein, he says, our client, DeMonte Kendrick, has been wrongly accused and incarcerated since May of 2022. We continue to fight for his freedom so that he can go home to his family and support system that all love him very much. He appreciates all the love and support from the public whose words and deeds have helped sustain him during these many long months. So it's looking like Gotti is not taking a plea. Gotti is not taking a plea. He said, we good on that. We going to keep fighting. So Doug Weinstein is kind of giving us some insight there, straight from the horse's mouth. No rumors. And it looks like the rumors are going to be ending for a while. I shouldn't laugh at that. But hey, you play certain games, you win certain prizes. So it is what it is at this point. But I'll be interested to hear what actually happened with them and where the infractions were. So I'll keep y'all up to date on that, on why Mr. Dennis Byron and infamous Sylvia got their Rule 22s somewhat snatched. They're allowed to record from the media room, and Judge Whitaker said they can be in the court for the rest of the proceedings today, but after that, they're done. You said poor Sylvia? Yeah. I mean, Sylvia likes pushing the envelope from what I've seen, but again, I don't know her content that well. Shout out to Sean P is up in here. You know what time it is. CEB gang in the building. We got Les Cleaver is in the building. Shout out to Reverend Michael Garrison in here. Okay, appreciate you, Rev. Says the judge just hinted that no mistrial will happen when she said they won't be able to record after today. I mean, we knew that was gonna happen. We knew that was gonna happen for sure. All right. Oh, it looks like Judge Whitaker is back, so we can go ahead and skip ahead. Let me see. We knew there was not going to be a mistrial. Judge Whitaker, she has too much work she has to do. I'm gonna try to take another bite of this real quick. This is crazy. Thank you, Amy, for dropping TLA in the chat.
And Mr. Garland, who's going to be taking the lead going through the plea? Okay. All right, Mr. Harvey, do either you or you, Ms. Hilton, need this plea of guilty and waiver of rights form back?
Thank you.
Yeah, this is crazy. It's crazy. Somebody's taking a plea deal. Wow.
All right, Mr. Nicholls and Mr. Harvey, whenever y'all are ready, you can come on up to the podium.
Mr. Harvey said he's signing the indictment.
Okay.
Oh, he's
Whenever
signing the
y'all are
plea.
Your Honor, I'd like my client to be present for this. He's a member of the public, and I would like him to observe this, and he has a right to be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we get
Are you granting
Mr.
that?
Kendrick
Thank you.
out, please?
Oh, so he's there. Okay.
Stand by.
Yeah, so
Oh.
Quay,
Oh,
so
wait.
Quay that got
Your Honor, I'm
exposed
sorry.
is taking a plea.
Can we have the... Yeah, can I approach?
So Mr. Nicholls is taking a plea deal. Wow. I think he was one of the people that was mentioned that might possibly take a plea deal. Mr. Weinstein's approaching. What do y'all think? Rev is in here, says, so how many do we think took a plea? I think maybe a couple. Yeah, we mentioned that Quay would probably take one. I mean, he has the most to gain, but we gotta know what is in this plea deal. I have no idea, but can y'all imagine what could possibly be going on? Oh my gosh, this is insane. Thank you to all 1,100 of y'all who are in the building.
Okay. We are going to recess for just a minute, and I am sorry about that, but I'm going to have to ask everybody to step out for just a minute, and then we'll let y'all back in, okay?
Thank you for coming back, Monica. Shout out to Cookies Cooks. We've got over 1,100 of y'all in the building. If you could take 1 second and like the video, I would appreciate it. It does help the channel continue to grow. It's free, and it lets the YouTube algorithm know y'all are enjoying the show, and it shares it with more people. Wow. Y'all want to go back and see it? Let me see. It's not helping Thug with his plea. No, absolutely not. And while we're waiting on them to come back from break, I want to hear, because I was too busy reacting to Mr. Byron and Miss Sylvia getting cooked. I want to hear exactly what Judge Whitaker's words are here. Man, that's unfortunate that they're not able to be in the courtroom after today. Jeez.
Court come to order.
Good afternoon.
They might, Rodney.
Seated. All right, first things first. Miss Sylvia and Mr. Byron. Miss Sylvia and Mr. Byron, if you all could both please come up to the podium.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Dang.
All right, so for both of you, I am sorry to have to say this, but I am going to be entering in order modifying each of your Rule 22s. It has come to my attention, and I have confirmed that each of you has been recording in the courtroom.
He's the only one in the room?
I have not been on the bench, and that is a clear violation of Rule 22. And so you may record today's proceedings, but after today, if you want to record, you're going to have to do it from the media room. You may be in here in the courtroom as a spectator without any recording equipment, or you may be in the media room to record, but no more with your equipment in the courtroom because y'all have both recorded things that you're not supposed to be recording based on Rule 22. So I'll enter those orders today. Thank you. All right. It is my understanding that we have a plea to be tendered for Mr. Nicholls. Is that right? All right.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
So it's just Mr. Nicholls because we didn't hear or see anybody else in the courtroom. Somebody said 2 defendants. Oh, okay. Michael L. said Mr. Nicholls is the only defendant in the courtroom. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Robert Ross says the government beat you up, dragged case out for 6 months. You spend millions of dollars. How can I stop the bleeding? Fulton County prosecutors are criminals. This entire trial has been full of corruption, and it's hard to watch. They're still not back yet. What else did Judge Whitaker say? So this is where she's getting Sylvia. I wonder who snitched. Who was out here snitching on them? They weren't hurting nobody. They weren't hurting anybody. Let me use proper English. Yeah, I want to see the plea deal too. We'll get it. We'll get it. Oh, thank you, Amy. Weinstein said a member of the public, Yak is
Mr.
out.
Harvey, Ms.
Anyone
Westmoreland,
else
and
with
Mr. Garland, who's going to be taking the lead going through the plea? Okay. All right, Mr. Harvey, do either you or you, Ms. Hilton, need this plea of
There's nobody
guilty
else
and
there.
waiver of rights form back?
Oh, Quay number 2 is in there.
Thank you.
They're tired of being in jail. Thank you, Amy, for the 5 bomb.
All right, Mr. Nicholls and Mr. Harvey, whenever y'all are ready, you can come on up to the podium.
Mr. Harvey said he's signing the indictment.
Okay. Whenever
Y'all are gonna
ready.
miss YSL
Your
ponytail.
Honor, I'd like my client to be present for this. He's a member of the public, and I would like him to observe this, and he has a right to be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we get
Are you granting
Mr.
that?
Kendrick
Thank you.
out, please?
Hold on, Judge. Hold up. Hold on.
Stand by.
Oh, wait, Your Honor, I'm sorry. Can we have the, yeah, can I approach?
All right, and that's it so far. So they're not back quite yet. I cannot believe this. I mean, we knew that some things were going in the works, but I'm gonna be honest. We mentioned that Quay was probably the only one that would take a plea deal just because of his situation, but I honestly didn't think any of them were gonna do it. I mean, that plea deal must be looking pretty good. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Shout out to Amy, by the way. She just gifted 5 memberships, by the way. You got a membership from Amy. Make sure you say thank you.
We are going to recess for
Oh my
just a
gosh.
minute, and I am sorry about that, but I'm going to have to ask everybody to step out for just a minute, and then we'll let y'all back in, okay?
All right, let's see. Let's see if we're back yet. Judge Whitaker said a minute. She meant 5011. Thank you to all 1,500 of y'all who are in here. If you could like the video, I would appreciate it. I'm trying to see if we have any updates. Maybe Thugger Daily has something. Shout out to Generational Disappointment says, so the state messed up so bad that they still get to make them take a plea. Still seems to be in favor of the state. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even though Generational Disappointment, the burden of proof is on the state, you still run a huge risk of taking this thing all the way to the end and getting a guilty verdict. And yeah, you could fight it in an appeal. You could go to the Court of Appeals and say, hey, this whole trial was a sham, but then that's going to take more time, more money. And what if you don't get a favorable outcome there? I mean, there's so much uncertainty when it comes to this trial, and putting your hands in the life of putting your life in the hands of a jury. I don't know. Is that a risk you want to take? That's something to think about. Let's see what Thugger Daily is saying. Yep, the same thing we just saw. Attorney Weinstein asked for his client Yak Gotti to be present in the courtroom for this plea hearing. The judge agrees and asks him to be brought in a brief recess. Yeah, well, we know how these brief recesses go. Yeah, that would suck. Can y'all imagine? I mean, it's kind of the same thing we were saying with Monktonk. Could you imagine if this is a mistrial and then Monktonk has 22 years probation and 5 years in jail? What's up? Freddie Harris, my guy, is in here, says, Weinstein, you seen the writing on the wall. Great lawyer to get your client a plea deal, because after all the mistrial denials, it's obvious they're not going home. And we saw an interview that Doug Weinstein did where he said, everyone just be patient. We're laying the grounds for a mistrial. What if this is their last shot at a mistrial? I mean, what if Fannie Willis makes some changes in her lineup? What if she brings in some other attorneys? What if, you know, the case tightens up the rest of their case? So much uncertainty is crazy. Shout out to Marga in here from the Netherlands. Shout out to the international gang. Robbie's in here, says if they're taking the plea, then they are guilty. They are guilty if they take the deal. I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I agree about that. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think just because you take a plea deal, you're guilty. I mean, we've heard of different type of plea deals, like an Alfred plea that we talked about, basically saying the only reason I'm pleading guilty is because the state just has enough of a case to make that would probably put the jury in a position to give a guilty verdict. And I don't want to take it that far. So I'm going to plea out and just let y'all know I really had no choice. And I didn't do what I'm being accused of, but I don't have any other options. Amy said Titan keyword. Shout out to Monica, says, how about a poll that says, did you like the video? Yes, I did. Oops, I forgot, doing it right now. That's a great idea. Shout out to Cookie Cooks, aka Monica, in here. Christopher Payne's in the building, says 22 years on paper is a trap. Man, dude messed up on that one. He's going to end up doing life on an installment plan with that deal. You got to check in with your probation officer. You got to keep your nose clean, literally and figuratively. Ugh. No, thank you. They still lack the evidence for conviction, though. So far. But I mean, they're still not through all of their witnesses either. So we'll see what happens. Didn't she give Sylvia a code of ethics for her to continue? Yeah, I think Sylvia had to write a letter and all that too, but doesn't matter now. She gone. Shout out to, is it Ryan? Hopefully I'm saying that right. Not true. Sometimes you take a deal because the offer is good and you don't want to fight. Sometimes you just want to go home. Yep, it's that simple. Vita's in here, said it makes the others look guilty. So by him getting out, he said, hey, good luck to y'all. It's tough. Michael L says, we have seen the prosecution. It won't be the last chance for a mistrial. I agree with you there. It would have been ruled a mistrial with prejudice based upon cumulative misconduct violations. And don't forget, I mean, there's a bar complaint and Miss Love's being investigated as we speak. And I actually saw, Amy, were you the one who showed me this? I can't remember, but there was something floating around that there are more complaints against Adrian Love. Let me see. Where's my all bookmarks? Let me see if I can find it. I'll look here in a second. We might be back. Amy says Nicholls might get his charges concurrent with what he's charged with separate. That 7 years could turn into 2 or 3 with good behavior and the time. Oh, okay. Let me read this as one comment. Nicholls might get his charges concurrent with what he's charged with separate. That 7 years can turn into 2 to 3 with good behavior and the time served. And if he has 3 of those years pending, that even though it says murder, withdraw, and serve 7 of 20, he might not serve a day on this case. If you're considering the pending charges will have overlapped, so one will cancel the other. Shout out to Amy for putting us on game. All right, looks like we're back. Let me see. Oh, where are we? Maybe. No. We'll see. Okay, nope, we're not back. That's great. Samantha Crumbly says, I don't blame anyone for taking a plea in their favor and not testifying against Young Thug. Whom they really are setting up. Shout out to Malik Alexander. Even if the jury finds them guilty, there are so many errors in this case, the Supreme Court is going to reverse the case. And then they can get an appeal bond. My opinion, I think they can be the case. Or I think you meant to say beat the case. No murder charges. They don't have the evidence. Shout out to Lesson here. He says, peace and love. All I have to go. See you in the recap. Bless you, family. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, Sean says we'll never know the truth about Big Nut's murder. You might be right about that, to be honest. Let me see if I can find that post I was talking about. Here we go. Astronaut chick over on... Let me see if I can find it. Over on X, let me see. Where did it go? She posted this. I got it. Shout out to Kanye East. He said, action. Yeah, we're waiting for Yak Gotti to get into the courtroom. So Astronaut Chick says, baby, just a quick review of Adrian Love on Google, and phew. Y'all see these dates? I guess it's no wondering why she's been so quiet lately. Disbarred the whole Fulton County DA's office. Oh my gosh. All right, here we go. Check this out. We talked about a couple of these. Let's see. Adrian Love. What do we have? Prosecutorial misconduct, or prosecutor misconduct on October 3rd. Prosecutor misconduct. October 3rd. Prosecutor misconduct. October 2nd. Prosecutor misconduct. October 2nd. Prosecutor misconduct. But y'all harassing the heck out of Miss Love. September 30th. September 25th. September 25th. No date provided. Dang. You wanted to take this case, and that's the risk you run. You got the whole world watching, and you gotta keep this clean. Sheesh. Peaches is in here, says, this is absolutely absurd. I don't understand why anyone would take a plea. It's on the verge of mistrial, and everyone can get this reversed on appeal due to this insane trial. The state has made errors. Yeah, and I don't know why just Whitaker just wouldn't grant a mistrial with prejudice. It's crazy. The pic they showed the jury should be misconduct. And there's so many instances, so many misconducts against her. Yep. It's looking ugly. Shout out to Chicago Organic, says, normally for sentences to be ran consecutively, there needs to be aggravating factors. And it normally happens after a trial, not after a plea deal. Christopher Payne says, hold up. Haven't y'all seen all of Miss Love's college degrees? Yo, fess up. Who let her cheat off? Oh, man. And Ryan, please let me know if I said your name right. She says, this jury is beyond lost. I have experience with the legal system from all perspectives, and the state lost me with their mountain of evidence.
Right. And so what we have ultimately is that there is no evidence, none.
I can only imagine how a jury of regular people feel. Yeah, and how they're putting everything together. Can y'all imagine their notepads? I know on my notepad right now, it would just be a bunch of doodles and like, man, can the state rest already? So we can get this non-guilty verdict out of the way, because I already know how I'm going. Jeez. Shout out to Mad Church Disease, says, shout out to you, young man. So happy to hear about your success. Thank you so much. And thank y'all for being a part of it too. I'm trying to look and see if we have any updates. All right, here we go. We're back. This is
All right, I
crazy.
apologize for the interruption. Thanks for y'all's patience. Some of the
You're welcome.
co-defendants in the ongoing trial wanted to be out here, so they are out here now. And Mr. Harvey, are we ready with Mr. Nicholls?
Yes.
All right.
Here we go.
You want him at the podium or do you want him here at seated?
Oh,
I
Young
think
Thug's
at the
there
podium,
too.
Please.
Everybody's here now. We got Shannon in the building. Westmoreland's in there. And there's Quay.
Thank you.
I did not see a
Have him at the
plea deal
podium,
happening
'cause
at this
he's gonna
point.
have to take an active part in this entry.
Here we go.
All right.
Okay, sure.
Sergeant, can you swear him in, please?
Raise your right hand. Swear firm testimony you give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
All right. State, spell your first and last name for the court. Slide into the mic, please, sir.
Quamarvius Nicholls. Quamarvious. Last name Nicholls. Nicholls.
Did you
All
get that, Judge? Okay. Do you want to do it again? All right. Slow down. Your name. Spell it for this young lady right here.
Okay, my name is Quamarvius Nicholls. First name Quamarvious. My last name Nicholls. Nicholls.
And Mr. Nicholls, are you the same person referred to as Quamarvius Nicholls on indictment 22 SC 183572?
Yes.
Get a mic, lady.
And are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No.
Have you had the opportunity to sign this indictment with your attorney, Mr. Bruce Harvey?
Yes.
How old are you?
Grown.
And how far did you go in school?
I got my GED.
I did not hear you.
I got my GED.
Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Do you understand that in this indictment, you were initially charged with count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, which carries a sentence of 5 to 20 years. You were also charged with count 49 in this indictment, which is murder, which carries a sentence of life.
Dang.
You were charged with 2 counts of participation in criminal street gang activity, which was counts 50 and 51, which each carried a sentence of 5 to 20 years. You were initially charged with counts 53 and 65, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon under Code Section 16-11-133, which each carried a sentence of 15 years consecutive to count 1. And then you were also charged with count 54, which is possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony,
Dang.
which carried a sentence of 5 years consecutive to count 1. Do you understand that that is what you were initially charged with?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
This has to be an Alfred plea.
Have you had an opportunity to go over and review the waiver of rights form with your attorney?
Yes.
And I'm going to hand this to your attorney. Did you sign this along with your attorney?
Yes.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney, Mr. Bruce Harvey, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charge in this indictment?
Yes.
Do you need any more time to discuss this matter with your attorney?
No.
Are you satisfied with his counsel and representation?
Give me
Yes.
PTSD.
And I'd include in there the counsel and representation by Ms. Westmoreland and Mr. Garland as well. You had a team of attorneys.
That's correct.
All right.
And they are all attorneys of record and have participated in this particular proceeding and negotiations leading up to this proceeding.
Thank you.
Do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you waive any and all defects with respect to the indictment?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, have you been arrested on all the charges in this indictment?
Yes.
And Mr. Harvey, the state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Do you know of any outstanding warrants that are related to these charges?
Not related to those charges.
Uh-oh.
Have you been advised
Got some warrants
of
out
the
there.
minimum and maximum sentence for each charge that you are pleading to?
Yes.
Do you understand this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means that the state will recommend to the court as to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, a sentence of 20 years to serve 7 years in custody, balanced on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand as a part of the negotiated agreement, the state will null, or dismiss count 49, which is the murder count, count 50, 51, which are the gang activity counts, count 53, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, count 54, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and count 65, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Do you understand that it's a negotiated agreement?
Pissed.
Yes.
Look at
Do you
Thug.
understand that the court does not have to accept that recommendation?
Yes.
And the court can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and can run those charges consecutively or one after the other?
Yes.
There's only one.
Well, there's only one charge that
so I-
a guilty plea is
I
being
was-
entered into, so
Under my breath to that.
there's no other sentence to run anything consecutively with regard to this plea. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you understand this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as in other jurisdictions, including the federal courts?
Yes.
Do you understand if you are currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on your entering a guilty plea today?
Yes.
Do you understand if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of your sentence?
Dang.
Do you understand you are not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand if you are not a United States citizen, a guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status?
More
and will
probation.
result in deportation, just like a conviction at a trial would, and that is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else?
Yes.
Do you understand that neither the court, your attorney, nor the district attorney's office has anything to do with parole, the Department of Corrections, or Board of Pardons and Paroles, and no one can guarantee parole no matter what anyone has told you?
Yes.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, your right to serve on a jury, your right to obtain a passport.
We're never
your
getting
right
Quay
to
for
seize,
president, y'all.
possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment.
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you'll be guilty of a felony, which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison?
Yes.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes.
Do you understand that you went to trial, you have the right to a trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights? After each right, I'll ask you to say yes or no if you understand. The right to a trial by jury.
Yes.
The right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself.
Yes.
The right to confront witnesses against you.
Yes.
The right to assist with counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at the trial of your case.
Yes.
The right to the presumption of innocence.
Yes.
The right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence.
Yes.
The right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence.
Yes.
The right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
The right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial.
Yes.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea?
No.
Is it your
And that one always scares me, and that's what they got Moontunk on. He said, "Oh no, I was in a tough position." No, you weren't. He did the same thing that Quay's doing right now. So don't walk it back when you don't like it.
decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you're in fact guilty?
Yes.
With respect to indictment 22 SC 183572, how do you plead to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act?
Guilty.
Is this guilty?
He's pleading guilty to the RICO charge? Oh, no.
572, how do you plead to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act?
Guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with a full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have 4 years from today's date to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this plea?
Yes.
And that can challenge anything about the constitutionality of the plea. It's not limited to voluntariness, understand?
Yes.
And Your Honor, if this case were to
Hang on just a second. You also have, so 4 years for that to file a direct appeal. You have 30 days from the date of the sentencing, which is going to be today. And you have until the end of this term of court to file a motion seeking to withdraw your guilty plea. That doesn't mean anything like that would be granted. You would have to establish facts that would warrant that. But that's just the time period is until the end of this term of court. Do you understand that as well?
Is he going to have to testify?
All right.
Your Honor, if this case were to continue with trial, Your Honor, the state would expect, as to this defendant, the state would expect to show that what has already come into evidence that on July 3rd, 2017, as well as October 23rd, 2018, that this defendant is an associate of the enterprise of YSL, also known as Young Slime Life, and that he conspired to associate together with others for the common purpose of illegally obtaining money and property through a pattern of racketeering activity and conducting and participating in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. In furtherance of the conspiracy, this defendant engaged in the activities below. He engaged in activities that assisted with preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise through acts of racketeering activity to include murder, assault, and threats of violence. That this defendant preserved, protect, and enhance the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise by the posting of messages, images, appearance in videos, and songs demonstrating allegiance to the enterprise and a willingness to engage in violence on its behalf, and to obtain money, weapons, and other property through acts of racketeering activity, including the unlawful sale and distribution of drugs. Your Honor, evidence has come in during this trial that on July 3rd, 2017, Mr. Nicholls was located at 2612 Steele Avenue, which is in the Cleveland Avenue sector of the city. Your Honor, he was found inside of a vehicle. When that vehicle was searched, Your Honor, this was in October of 2018, they found marijuana as well as sandwich baggies that would be used to package drugs, and there are also guns found inside of that vehicle. Also in July of 2017, this defendant was stopped during a traffic stop in the Cascade area, Your Honor. After being stopped, Your Honor, there was a consensual search of the vehicle that yielded powder MDMA, Xanax, as well as a loaded gun inside of that vehicle. Additionally, Your Honor, in July of 2019, Mr. Nicholls was featured in a video with another YSL member, Shannon Stillwell, and Wooney Lee. In that video, it was entitled Slap Talk. And in that video, co-conspirator Shannon Stillwell, while performing, makes such quotes as, "Me and my slimes are above the law." We know from the evidence that slimes is one of the terminology used by members of YSL to refer to themselves or other members of this enterprise. And then last but certainly not least, Your Honor, that in March of 2022, Your Honor, Mr. Nicholls was found in surveillance video at a gas station at Windsor Street and Fulton Street here in Atlanta, Georgia. This was on March 14, 2022, during what the state would believe to show an onset of a gang war that really started in 2015 with the death of Donovan Thomas, but carried on into 2022. In February of 2022, a rival gang member by the name of Rayshawn Bennett, also known as YFN Lucci, was stabbed at the Fulton County Jail in February of 2022. Information about that stabbing was made public at the early part of March 2022, around March 3rd of 2022. Once that information was released to the public, there was an onset of retaliatory activity that occurred between March 3rd, 2022 and March 16th of 2022. That includes a March 11th homicide of YSL associates Christian McMiller and Darius Ford. It also then included a retaliatory shooting of a YFN associate, and then ultimately it led to a murder of Shamel Drinks, who we believe is a YFN associate.
He might have to testify.
This murder occurred again on March 14, 2022. Mr. Nicholls is seen on surveillance video at that BP gas station, as I just referenced earlier. He was at the gas station with YSL co-conspirator Shannon Stillwell. Mr. Stillwell was driving an Audi vehicle. Mr. Nicholls came to that gas station in a Ford Fusion vehicle. You see both of them on camera together. While they are at that gas station, Shamel Drinks approaches that gas station as well. I think unbeknownst to Mr. Drinks, Mr. Stillwell was still in his vehicle, which is the Audi. At some point in time, Mr. Nicholls got into his vehicle, the Ford Fusion. Once Mr. Drinks finished his business or finished handling business at that gas station, we know that there is a phone call between occupants of the car that Mr. Stillwell was in and occupants of the car that Mr. Nicholls was in. That communication was to the effect of, you need to get on FaceTime. As soon as that conversation ensues, we see Mr. Drinks leave the gas station in his vehicle, and both the car that Mr. Stillwell is driving, as well as the car that Mr. Nicholls is driving, both follow out of the gas station, following behind Mr. Drinks. Mr. Drinks proceeds down the street to the light at Windsor, which is right by I-20 in Windsor. Mr. Drinks is in the far left lane. The car involving with Mr. Stillwell pulls up to the middle lane, and Mr. Nicholls' vehicle pulls up to the far right lane. This is all captured on surveillance video and surveillance camera. They are at the light for a moment. Then we see both this car with Mr. Stillwell as well as the car with Mr. Nicholls drive through a red light, leaving the car with Mr. Drinks sitting at that light. About 30 minutes later, a Good Samaritan sees that car still sitting there, approaches the vehicle, and Mr. Drinks is now deceased inside of that vehicle. We had know through LPR readers that both Mr. Stillwell's vehicle and the car involving Mr. Nicholls drive in the direction of 20 westbound and follow in tandem. 2 days later, when after the case is investigated and arrest warrants are taken out, on March 17th, 3 days later, Mr. Nicholls is found with Mr. Stillwell.
Mr. Body's back in there.
At a Chick-fil-A gas station, Chick-fil-A restaurant. There is a chase, I won't call it a high-speed chase, but there is a chase through the city of East Point, and eventually Mr. Nicholls as well as Mr. Stillwell are both apprehended after arrest warrants were ultimately taken out for the murder of Mr. Drinks, Your Honor. Given where we are in the case, Your Honor, we know that Mr. Nicholls, we do not believe Mr. Nicholls was in the vehicle in which the shooting occurred, but he was in this other vehicle. The state has made the decision to move forward with this recommendation for the RICO count, Your Honor, for count one.
Mr. Harvey, are y'all acknowledging a factual basis to the count one, the RICO count?
Okay, we are acknowledging a factual basis. There has already been evidence with regard to the July 3rd, 2017 drug event. the October 23rd, 2018 drug event. We categorically deny and contest any use of violence by Mr. Nicholls. We don't agree to that underlying factual basis. We believe those two predicate acts that were committed by Mr. Nicholls without any question are sufficient to meet the elements of the offense. The offense to which he's pleaded to, which is a RICO conspiracy. A RICO conspiracy requires proof that the defendant either conspire with another person to violate one of the substantive provisions of RICO, and that would be drug offenses, or personally endeavor, I believe that's what the language of the statute says, to violate one of the substantive provisions.
Well, that's what the language of the statute says, but he is indicted in this indictment with conspiring, not with endeavoring.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, and Amy, let me know, because I think I'm hearing the same thing you guys are hearing. What it sounds like to me is that, yes, I did this, but it was Thug's fault. That's what I'm hearing this plea is saying. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
We need some
so
of our attorneys
we're talking
in here.
about a conspiracy. We acknowledge the two events that he participated in. We categorically deny any other allegations other than those two events that are sufficient for a factual basis. We categorically deny that we participated in any way in the unfortunate death of Mr. Drinks. We categorically deny any other charges to which we are, substantive charges to which we are not entering a plea, and that includes gang charges. This is a plea solely to a conspiracy to violate the RICO Act. But yes, we acknowledge a factual basis to that extent, Your Honor.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Your Honor, we just have one additional thing to say.
Go ahead.
The factual basis regarding the nature of YSL is that the evidence has shown and will continue to show that Mr. Nicholls conspired with others to participate in Young Slime Life through a pattern of racketeering activity, and multiple defendants and unindicted co-conspirators have committed overt acts to further this conspiracy, including drug sales, aggravated assault, and murder, also including social media posts asserting the violent nature of and asserted dominance of Young Slime Life, also known as YSL. And that concludes our factual basis.
And again, once again, we categorically deny those representations. And again, the only thing that is necessary to meet the factual evidence of a 1614-4C is proof that the defendant conspire with another person to violate one of the substantive provisions of RICO, and that is subsumed by the drug offenses that have already been proven in this case, and to which Mr. Nicholls has previously pled.
All right, thank you. Understood.
And Your Honor, I approach with the waiver of rights form.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I need a lawyer to help me out here, but what I'm hearing is...
All right, Mr. Harvey, have you reviewed with Mr. Nicholls this plea of guilty and waiver of rights form, which the two of you have both signed?
I have, Judge, in each individual provision in that plea colloquy has been acknowledged and gone over personally with Mr. Nicholls.
All right. And Mr. Nicholls, have you had sufficient time to consider this guilty plea that has been negotiated between the state and your attorneys, and to discuss anything you wanted to about that with your attorneys?
Yes.
All right. And you understand I hope, I'm going to ask you, that it is your decision ultimately, obviously with the advice of your attorneys, but it's ultimately up to you individually to decide whether you want to enter this guilty plea or not. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. And you do want to enter this guilty plea?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Harvey, have you advised Mr. Nicholls of the alternatives if he does not ultimately go through with this guilty plea and the potential benefits and drawbacks of all of the other options?
Yes,
All right.
very thoroughly, Judge.
All right. All right, Mr. Harvey, is there anything that the defense wants to add to the record?
Judge, other than the statement with regard to the underlying factual basis, I would point out for the court that when Mr. Nicholls filled out his form, it says 29 plus. He is a birthday boy in a couple of days and he will be 30. And at 30 years of age, he has a wife, he has got a 13-year-old daughter, he's got a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. His wife and sister, I believe, are here in the courtroom to support him. He, Mr. Nicholls, was born and raised in Atlanta, and you know, we're at this point before I have even given my opening statement in this case.
Yes, sir.
I do want the court to know that Mr. Nicholls' mother died in prison. His father was shot by the Atlanta police when he was 4 years old. And he was raised by friends and family in the Atlanta area. So he has come to this point in his life from a very humble beginning. And he has sought the support of friends in this courtroom and others in this courtroom.
You got it, Mr. Harvey. Hang in there.
He is an intelligent young man who I believe has a future. Every day we do a word of the day. We put a new word into a sentence. And I think this is in his best interest. I know that there is, and I know this plea is negotiated, but it's a long downside from 7 to 20. So the courts will have jurisdiction over him for a period of time. So I ask the court, given who this young man is, and given our categorical denial of some of the factual basis, to accept the plea and sentence Mr. Nicholls accordingly.
Mr. Nicholls, is there anything that you want to say?
No, ma'am.
All right.
Free slime, real quick, one time.
All right. I find there to be a factual basis for the guilty plea to the RICO count one of the indictment, that being a conspiracy to acquire control or interest in money and personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity. And that is the only count that guilty plea is being entered for. The remaining counts of this indictment as against Mr. Nicholls are being null pros by the state as a part of this indictment. I find, having heard the evidence up to the point of trial right now, that there is evidence of at least one overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy, and that there is evidence that would fall within the required statute of limitations to establish this RICO conspiracy count. One of the things that we as judges are instructed by our Uniform Superior Court rules to do when we are considering whether to accept a guilty plea and whether to accept a negotiated sentence, and this is a negotiated sentence in this case, is to take into account whether giving leniency in sentencing is going to aid in ensuring promptness and certainty, or at least more promptness and more certainty with regard to corrective measures, whether the defendant, and in this case the defendant has acknowledged guilt and is accepting responsibility for his guilt of the RICO count, and whether accepting the plea will aid in avoiding further delays, not just with regard to this case, but with regard to the entirety of our system here in Fulton County. And this plea does go towards doing all of those things. I am going to accept the plea as negotiated and sentence in accord with the negotiated recommendation. As I said before, find there to be a factual basis for count one of the plea. I find the plea to have been freely, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered into by Mr. Nicholls with an understanding of the consequences of doing that. And the sentence on count one is the sentence that has been negotiated of 20 years to serve 7, with the balance of those years to be served on probation. And that, I don't know if there are any special conditions attached to this that y'all have talked about at all.
There are no negotiated special conditions. And those
So it sounds like 7 years probation. I mean, 20 down to 7 years probation for a RICO charge? I mean, yo, did I hear that right? 20 down to 7, and those are to be served on probation.
so there are none as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
Wow.
Okay. So with regard to the time that you are on probation, you need to stay out of all kinds
7
of
and
criminal
13
trouble.
out. Oh, okay.
Make this a birthday present to yourself and to your children and to your wife and family, that you will leave from here today and leave whatever you used to do behind you, and take the next few years. You know, you're going to have some years that are still to be served on this. You'll have credit for the time you've already served, but you're still going to be facing some incarceration time. But after that, you are going to be out, and you, I believe, Mr. Harvey is correct, can be a productive member of society, and this is an opportunity for you to do that and for you to put your past behind you, the bad parts of it, and continue and make your children proud of you and set a good example for them, an example that I guess unfortunately you were not lucky enough to have throughout the entirety of your childhood with your parents. I'm sorry about that, but you can be the kind of parent that you ought to be to your children. So I am going to impose that sentence, and I am going to wish you luck and good fortune as you go forth from here. So I think that unless there's anything else from either party, that will conclude these proceedings, and y'all can go ahead and take him into custody. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
And Ms. Taylor will make this an exhibit to the plea. Thank you.
And y'all
All
saying
right,
he
we are
probably won't
adjourned
have
for
to
the
serve
day.
all that time. Wow, that's crazy. All right, so I gotta get some clarity on this, because if they're saying like he's free to go, and that's going to be a present to him and his family, how is it a present if he has to serve time? Let me double check and see if I can figure this out. That is wild. I mean, it sounds like, hey, we got to give a round of applause to Bruce Harvey for a RICO charge. Sounds like a pretty good deal. I just want to know what the stipulations are. Like, what all does he have to do? We heard some of the factual basis, as they call it. I want to see if there's any factual acknowledgments in here. So he's got the 20 years. He has to serve 7. Obviously he got arrested. So, I mean, how much of that 7 do y'all think he'll serve? And y'all saying, wait, is it 7 in jail or on probation? Yeah, he has 7 years he has to serve. And then she said with the remaining balance being probation, being served on probation. So we're going to get some clarity about that. Again, y'all, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. He's already served several years since this trial started. So let me see. Y'all are saying 23 months. Yeah, they said 4 years served. Yeah, that sounds about right. So he's not going to have to testify. And shout out to Amy for sending me this. She says, he's not going to have to testify, which is good. In Georgia, the amount of time a person serves on a 7-year sentence depends on several factors, including the nature of the offense, their behavior while incarcerated, and eligibility for parole or early release. For nonviolent offenses, Georgia generally requires inmates to serve at least 1/3 of their sentence before being eligible for parole, meaning they might serve around 2 to 3 years of a 7-year sentence if approved. For violent or serious offenses, however, Georgia mandates serving at least 90% of the sentence, which would be about 6.3 years. Other factors such as good behavior or participation in rehabilitative programs can influence the actual time served, but eligibility for those reductions varies based on offense type. Interesting. Shout out to Amy for that insight. That's still, I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Oh, shout out to Love Mally's gonna break it down. Said, bro, did you listen? It's not rocket science. 7 in, 2 served, and it's state. So he will be out in 2 years and the remaining of the 20 on probation. No, he does not have to testify. Oh, there you go. Love Mally needs to start a YouTube channel because I don't know. I'm not listening. Shout out to Michael L. The state wanted the RICO charge so they can continue it against the other defendants. Yep. That is why they dropped the other charges. He has served approximately 3 years of the 7 already. Parole within 1 year. Definitely possible. Plus, time served applies. Chicago Organic says it's nonviolent. And also, he got time served on the drug portion, not the gang violence portion. And some of y'all are saying 7 years probation. Judge is still helping the state 2 times so far. He will do 2 or 3 on that 7. And some of y'all are saying 7 years probation. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can hear things and I can only go based off what I hear. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens from here. Also, Thugger Daily says no negotiated special conditions, which means he did not have to testify to any factual acknowledgments. And we heard the factual acknowledgments being listed as well. Mark says, I think about 42 months, but especially if you go based off of what Amy's saying. Mark says serve 7 minus 23 months already. KB says, so if one person takes a plea, don't whole case can no longer be considered RICO? Well, the problem is he pled guilty to the RICO, so that's That's the tough part. Jason T said, they said 7 years probation. He's getting out. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm going to go and see what TLA is saying, honestly, after this, because he's the attorney. I'm just taking it for face value, but I do have a lot of questions when it comes to his plea deal, which we should be able to see at some point, I would hope. Let me double check and make sure. Let's see. Shout out to Sassy Savage. ENT says, no one's plea deal is allowed to prejudice the other defendants by law, and the jury will be instructed to not allow it to prejudice the remaining defendants. Yeah. Amy says, so how is the jury supposed to have an unbiased verdict for the others when he has pled now? All right, when he has pleaded now. This is the issue now. And he's not the first one either. And y'all are saying 7 years prison time, 13 years probation. Mark says he will find some programs and conduct to reduce his programs and conduct to reduce time in prison. So we'll have to try to make it 15-year stretch in probation. That is a tough haul. That's a lot of probation. Kanye East says, this is actually insane. ClassE beats the majority of this case so far has been on Quay. So we have wasted about 10 months of this trial for nothing. I mean, this whole trial is a waste. Yeah, but the elephant, just ignore it. Yeah, disregard the elephant, Amy. Just don't worry about it. Samantha Crumbly says, I guess they needed to give up something major and the jury will view his absence in the courtroom. It's bad optics for the defense. I agree with y'all on that one. Another one bites the dust. The jury's going to be like, I think the good thing out of all of this, though, for Thug is that he's not going to testify. So he's just out of sight, out of mind. If you ask them about Monkton, they're going to be like, who? I don't know who that is. Amy says, I can't disregard it. It's huge. Disregard the elephant. You have to. Chicago Organics. Shout out to Amy. Chicago Organics says 33% of 7 years is 2.31 years. He's already been inside for that. He's dressing for that. He's dressing in and dressing out for parole purposes. There you go. Chicago Organics. That makes sense. That makes more sense to me. Because what I heard sounded to me like probation. Not that he was getting arrested or he was getting taken into custody, I should say. Shout out to Adam NYC Engineer says she communed the 20 to 7 years. Then you subtract incarceration time from that and it will give you the remainder to be served on probation. That's what I said, but they were saying I was wrong. I think it was Love Maui said I wasn't paying attention. That's what I thought too. It sounded like probation to me, but again, I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer. But speaking of, I'm going to see, hopefully the lead attorney is still alive. I'm going to go over there and check out and see what he's saying, because I know he'll break down what we heard today better than I can, but maybe I'm not hearing well. Mr. Vegas says, ClassE, the judge said he will be going back to jail out her own mouth. Okay. Yeah, I just don't listen. Either way. All right. I hope y'all have a great rest of your afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. Thank y'all for liking the video. We will be back tomorrow morning at 9:30. Hopefully the jury will be back tomorrow, because Judge Whitaker, he said we're done, on to the next thing. So we'll see if the jury's back tomorrow, if we have court proceedings then. Either way, we'll be here. Y'all make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any time that we go live. Looking forward to seeing y'all in the morning. Have a great afternoon, and you know what to do. Keep growing, keep pushing, keep it classy. We gone. Peace, y'all.